Do you dream of adding your very own book to the collection of books that have already been written? Do you wonder where to start or how to finish? Does the idea of writing a book seem too overwhelming? Do you just want to polish up those writing skills or stay motivated? Do you wonder what to write about? Everything you need to help you write, stay motivated, and self-publish your own book is right here on one channel. And why? Well, because it's time to get over the writer's hump and just do it. You can write anything. Yep, you can write a book. Well, hello and welcome to a book. I'm so excited that you are here today. I have a fantastic guest for you. She is just amazing. I had an opportunity to speak with her a few weeks ago, and I was really excited to get her scheduled for today's show. And I know you are going to love her too. Her name is Leanda, and you are going to love hearing about her and about the books that she has written. Leanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's lovely to be here.
Oh, and where are you located? You are quite a ways
Uh,
from me.
a long way from you. I'm located on the Western Port Peninsula side of the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria, Australia.
Oh my goodness. And so I'm in the United States, right in the middle of the country, and we're not just a few hours apart, we're actually a day apart from each other. So I love technology because it brings people from all around the world together. I've had the opportunity to interview people from different continents, and it's fantastic. Well, I'm glad you're here, and I am excited for the audience to get to learn a little bit more about you. So, if you would, tell us about yourself and your writing journey and all of the things that you have written.
Wow, that's such a big scope to start with. So writing for me began 1998, actually 2000 it was, because 1998 was another pointer for something else. So in the year 2000, I embarked on writing about my life, really, the things that had happened, the experiences that I'd had. And one thing led to another, that I just wanted to learn more about my voice. And it really became a journey of discovering my voice and all the different aspects of us as human beings. And I even went down the road of, doing psychology for a year, studying that because I really wanted to understand how people ticked, due to all of the encounters with people that I'd had. So writing for me became my first book. It's Right to Heal. You're right to heal, and you can write to heal. And it was a journey about one woman's physical and spiritual journey in search of finding her voice.
Oh my goodness. We share something in common because my degree is in psychology. And the first thing that I ever attempted to write, and it wasn't so much to write a book, it was more out of curiosity, was many years ago, before I even got my degree. And I had titled it Why My I, capital I, because I wanted to know what made people so unique and individual. And so I started interviewing people and just asking them, what makes you you? You know, I never got very far with the book. I never did anything with it. Life goes on. I set it aside, but I've often thought that maybe one day I will revisit that and do that again. So what was the thing that inspired you then to write your first book?
Well, it was a case of in 1997, I was pregnant with my third child, and I discovered it was another boy, which was lovely. So yeah, three sons. And so I had my three sons and had a beautiful family. But there was more to life. And it was really a very deep urge within myself to discover who I am and why I'm here. And so I never really set out to write a book either. Um, I did in some respects and not in others. It was really about finding my voice. And I guess I only realized that in hindsight, because when I embarked on the journey of writing that book, I had such high expectations. And I remember we lived in Karratha, Western Australia at the time, which is the top northwest of Western Australia. And I travelled down to Perth and then on the red eye to Sydney, and then from Sydney to Melbourne, and then Melbourne I got a train to Woodend, and I didn't know how I was going to get to this writers' conference that was in Romsey at John Marsden's estate. Now, John Marsden's a very well-known Australian author, and it was at that conference that an editor from the University of Queensland Press had read my manuscript. This is 2003, so 3 years on, I'd
Wow.
written it. And she said, oh, I'd suggest that you go back. This is in a nutshell. I suggest you go back and write it in the third person,
Oh,
just to distance yourself from some of the experiences, from some of the trauma, etc., some of your life experiences. So I was devastated as a first-time author. It just crushed everything. And I decided, no, I'm not going to do that. And I put it away, and I went on to write poetry and children's stories because, hey, they're a lot shorter, right?
yes. More of that instant gratification, right?
Yeah. And so from there, it wasn't until we had actually moved from Karratha, Western Australia, to the Gippsland in Victoria, a little country town of 2,500 people at the time called Merbau North. And certain life events played out, and my former husband died tragically.
Oh.
And I took some time off work then, some months later anyway, and decided, okay, now's the time to go back and rewrite it in the third person. So I did that, and I did that within about 10 months. And in the same country town, I learned through the school that my sons attended that the school chaplain knew of a manuscript assessor in the town, and she was leaving in 2 weeks. So it was like we were instantly connected, and she agreed to read my book very kindly, I must say. And then a couple of months later, because she was moving, she got back to me in a written email, several pages, and but in a nutshell, it said, I think it's lost all of its emotional intensity, the
Oh,
description, the landscape. I'd really recommend you go back and write it in the first person.
oh my goodness. You know what my takeaway from that is, Leanda? That there are so many varieties of opinions when it
Mhm.
comes to writing, that what is important is that we write what is true to us as authors. And
Mhm.
so, did you learn that? Did you learn that you should have
Oh,
just done what was true to you?
no, not in that instance. It took me a long time to get to that point. So I then thought, well, gee, I don't know enough about writing. So um, 2 weeks late into enrollment, I enrolled in a diploma of professional writing and editing.
Oh my. Ah,
And so I completed that. But it was through that process and through other things that were happening in my life that I actually found my voice. And I feel like that's the critical, the pinpoint that, is most important is finding your unique voice. It's like, because we've got so many identities that we can embody and be projecting, if that's the word I'm looking for, through our writing. But really, what is our true voice? What does our true voice really have to say, uncensored as well? So
yes.
that then, changed the course of how things unfolded.
Oh my. And what was the name of that book? What book was that?
So it started off as Where Do We Belong? Then it morphed into Hidden Lessons, Secret Gifts. Then it changed to Try Hard Girl because she tried really hard.
Oh,
And then it went to the book that it is today, which is behind me, that green one. It's Right to Heal.
right, right. WRI. Yes,
Yes.
right to heal.
But it
Wow.
has two meanings. So it's your right to heal, and you can write to heal. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Did you find healing through writing?
Absolutely. For me, writing is a cathartic process, of finding out more about who you are and those that you meet in life and how they're a mirror of you and what they reflect back to you.
Yes, absolutely. Last week we had an author on by the name of Siobhan Bulmer from South Africa, and I don't know if you saw her show or not, but she healed through the writing process. That was part of her story, was how she healed from some trauma through writing. And I find that to be very true for a lot of people. As a counselor, because I was a counselor for 19 years, it was something I always instructed my clients to do, was to write, to journal. But I
Mhm.
never took my own advice. I didn't do that. I've never been much of a journaler. And then a few years ago, I got COVID and I got it very badly. I thought I was going to die from that. And when I came out of that, when I began to, oops, my camera's doing something funny again. When I began to come out of that and started to feel a little bit better, that process, that everything I went through was so traumatic that I started to write about it. And I wrote a book called My Journey Through PCSD, Post COVID Stress Disorder. And I don't know that I've sold maybe a handful of copies, but it was healing for me. It helped
Mhm.
me deal with my trauma of all of that and got me back to where I could function again and be sort of become part of society once more. I was afraid to go out. I had been so very sick and I was so afraid I was going to make other people sick too. So, yeah, I think there can be some serious value in writing.
I really feel that any creative outlet is part of an essential part of living on Earth. It's discovery. It is so beautiful as well. When it came to my fifth book, which is skipping a little bit in between, and that was written very different because all the memoirs were written from life experience and whereas the fifth one was just an exploration of what wants to come through me in this moment. And so different again in that one is very much a cathartic healing process. The other one is like, wow, it makes you laugh. It through the poetry and it makes you feel really amazed at what can come through as a do you see what I'm saying? As in,
Yes.
there's quite a big difference. So I'm really very grateful that I've explored some of the spectrum that there is to writing.
Oh my goodness. And there's so many different directions to go. And so it sounds to me like you are not one of these authors who gets locked into a specific style and a specific genre. You learn from your writings, you improve on your writings. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I was just visiting with an author today that we've scheduled for next month for a book, and we were discussing that very thing, that if you don't learn from your writings, then you're not really a good writer. I mean, things do not have to be perfect before you write a book, before you get your book published and you get it out there. Some people spend so much time deliberating over their writing piece and they're afraid to put it out there. But I always say, get it out there and learn from it. And then if you
Mhm.
want to write again, you can look back and go, I might do some things a little different this time. I had a lot to learn when I was first writing. So, how long does it take you to write a book? What is your process like?
Well, the memoirs are very different because they have been in the part like the four memoirs have been a process of journaling, and I think up to 60 journals by the time I sort of backed away from the journaling. I don't do that quite so much now. Um, and so I'd be pulling out pieces and, oh, yes, that can be slotted in there. It's more like a jigsaw puzzle, putting that together. And so the process can take, I guess, for me, it's around 10 months because it's not something I'm solidly working on necessarily all the time. It's as the inspiration comes in and I feel the motivation. Um, I'm not one of these to sit down and really force something to happen, because I don't feel that that's nature and that's the way things naturally occur. So everyone's different. Also, I need quiet time and my own space. I'm not the type of writer that goes into a cafe and can write amongst all of those energies. It's just not me. But when it came to Knightsbridge, that was written in less than 2 months. And that was because it was just such a different set of circumstances. It was in the middle of COVID. In Melbourne, we were very locked down. We couldn't go out and couldn't see family, friends, etc. And I know that happened in a lot of other places as well. But I was feeling very isolated and solitary, and I couldn't sleep one night. And I got up at midnight around that time, and I just went to the computer and I purely had the intent to play. Let's just play with words.
Oh,
And that's probably one of the best things I could have done, because I really loved what came through. It surprised me. And so then I went back, and I was naturally woken between the hours of midnight and 3 a.m. every night until I had 50,000 words.
oh, you're kidding.
No.
Wow. Oh
And then at
my.
the end of it, I went, do I actually have a book? Like,
Oh my goodness. Wow. So it grew organically. It wasn't something that you put an outline together for or even set out ahead of time to do. That is incredible.
yeah.
Yeah.
And once again, it was a very cathartic healing process to go through at that particular time. Yeah.
I think for most of the world, I think we saw brilliant pieces of writing come out of COVID. I really do. For myself, one of the best books that I wrote happened during COVID. We were in lockdown, and it was a book that I really felt in my soul I needed to write, and I did that in a very short amount of time. And I've listened to so many other writers who said, well, I didn't have anything else to do. I couldn't go to work or I couldn't go here or there. So I just started writing. And a lot of first time writers came out of COVID.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
it.
And with the time to really devote to it, I think those writings are even better maybe than pre-COVID or even now that we're about and can do things again. I think more time was really dedicated and focused on those individual pieces, don't you?
I do. I feel for me like it was bringing things back into alignment. If we look at nature, as human beings on the planet, we've been so distanced from nature and the natural ways of being. And I really feel that we've been brought back into balance a little bit there.
A little bit. Yeah. It was quite a shock the way that all happened. Tell me a little bit about what Knightsbridge is about. Tell us about that book.
So Knightsbridge is, well, it's an interesting title for starters. So I didn't realize until after I'd finished the book, I was curious, what does Knightsbridge mean? And in one sense, I knew it was about crossing the bridge from the old ways to the new. But Knight itself, Knight, the Latin word for that is knit, which is CHNIT, I think. And that means servant or slave. And so I really began to really resonate with, well, all of these things that I've been doing in my life, have I been a slave to a particular system? So it was a very much an investigation of, why things were happening the way they were, but it was an investigation into the multi-dimensional aspects of me and everybody, really, because it opens up in the beginning of time. And I can really say that I'm probably connected to every one of the characters in the story
Oh my goodness.
in a multi-dimensional way, as in there's the beginning of time, then there's we jump ahead to 2063, then we go to the present, with Maya in her everyday world and what she's going through, and then we go into like a conversations with God type of scenario where I'm where the character, which is the reader or me, depending on how you want to read it, is investigating what's going on in their world, and then it wraps up at the end with the beginning on what's happening
Oh,
with
I
the
love that.
initial
Yeah.
characters.
That's just amazing.
Yeah,
So what was the most difficult part for you when you started writing and you started getting your books published? What was the most difficult part? For some people, it's the marketing. I think every author has trouble marketing their book because we live in a world where there's so many options for people when it comes to reading. So that can be a bit of a challenge. But what about editing, layout? How did you go about all that? Did you send it off to an editor? How did you do all of that?
well, with my very first book, Right to Heal, I paid for an editor to help me get it into ebook format only because I didn't know how to put it into print. Um, and she was a hard taskmaster,
Oh boy.
but she did help me get it into ebook format. But at the same time, I was also interviewing a gentleman in Gippsland who everybody said to him, "You must write your story." So I became his ghostwriter
Oh.
um, through the course that I was doing. It just went in that way at the time. So I got his book into print because his family paid for it. And so then I started to really learn about, well, by the time I got to my next book, it was like I had a go at putting my own book into print. With the second book, it was print and paperback. And then by the third book, it was like I was able to put the first book into print at the same time. So
Okay.
it's been very much for me a learning journey and wanting to learn and understand it myself so that I could self-publish. Um, because I guess due to what had happened, with, the initial confrontation with that original editor, it
Of
really
course.
put me off the traditional publishing route.
Yes.
And then I was involved in a writing group in Melbourne, and one lady there had been signed up by a traditional publisher, and she pulled out because of the terms and shared with us all what happened. So it just didn't feel right to me. Yeah.
So I strongly encourage people to self-publish. Um, and I want to talk about that a little bit more, but we do need to take a break. I want to
Okay.
hear from our sponsor from Victory Vision Publishing, and then we'll come right back and I want to talk a little bit more about that self-publishing aspect. So we'll be back in just a moment. Hey everyone, are you stuck trying to figure out how to finish writing or publishing your book? Well, let me tell you about Victory Vision Publishing. Victory Vision Publishing is there to help you cross that finish line. They have package plans that are tailor made just for your individual needs. They have learning opportunities where you can discover ways of overcoming some obstacles that you might have. Adam Fleming is a wonderful CEO, and they are a fully staffed team just waiting to help you edit, layout, maybe make a cover for your book. Go ahead and join their email list and check out some of the wonderful books and wonderful authors that they have already helped get published. Yep, Victory Vision is definitely the way to go if you feel stuck and just want some support in getting your book out to the world. You're only one book away from changing the world. victoryvision.org. All right, we are back. And Leanda, we were discussing I always say self-publishing. This is my opinion. I know that there are people out there who will disagree with me, but on this channel, we have a lot of brand new authors. We have a lot of um, people who want to become authors, and they're watching this and they're thinking to themselves, "Oh, I'll never be able to write something because I don't have a publisher, or I don't have a representative. What am I going to do with this manuscript if I complete this writing?" We no longer live in a day and age where you have to have permission to write. I think years ago, before all of this wonderful technology that we have, you had to send your manuscript off to several different publishing companies and hope to get your book published. You had to get an agent, and there were a lot of hoops for people to jump through. And
Mhm,
because of that, so many people who had beautiful things to say never got heard.
mhm.
And that's not how it is anymore. Nobody has to get permission to write, right?
Yes, I love
So
that. Yeah.
anybody can write a book. And I say
Mhm.
that in almost every episode, anybody can write a book. Now, having said that, it does leave the door open for some pretty poor writing as well. That means anybody can write a book. So
Yeah.
I tell people, find somebody to edit, and by edit I mean more like proofread your book. I like to get about 3 sets of eyes on my book. I have somebody who edits and proofreads for me. I'm really fortunate because my next door neighbor, whom I happen to see out my window walking his dog right now, is an English professor. And so he went through my last book and gave me some wonderful pointers and tips. And then I always find a beta reader, somebody else that's neutral, that just to read it for the story content. And that can be scary. That can be very scary for someone when they're first writing, and it can feel as if they are exposing themselves. What goes on in our head feels private until we put it on paper, and then we feel as if we are so exposed. And it can be scary, but it is so necessary. Because even though anybody can write a book and anybody can self-publish, it doesn't mean that we aren't human beings that make mistakes. My first book, I didn't know that I needed an editor or uh, proofreader. I didn't know, and so I wrote it and I put it out there, and it was terrible. I had spelling errors, I had grammatical errors. It was horrible. I learned from it. I did. I learned, and I said I won't do that again. Next time, I'll make sure that somebody looks it over.
Yeah. I can resonate. For me personally, it's like we can also do the opposite. We can get too many opinions.
Mm.
And so what I've learned through my journey is, do I love it? Is it really integral to me and my voice? Yes, it needs, obviously, without a shadow of a doubt, it's always great to get a proofread. But if you're struggling with the structural stuff, if you're not happy with, does this piece go there or that piece go there? That's where a writerly guide can come in handy. And that's what I'm doing now, is really enjoying helping people, writers or would-be writers, get their voice heard, but their true voice, not some of these identities that want to come through and muck up their voice.
Oh,
So
I believe that that is one of the most beautiful gifts that you can pass on, your own experience with writing, and then you're sharing that with somebody else and letting them be who they are without saying, well, this is good, but change this. Instead of directing their show, it's their show, and let
that's
them
right.
have their own voice. And I try to do that with people who come to me as well. That is so important to let them keep their own integrity of their own writing piece.
Yes. And so for the first four books, I think I had an editor with the first three, and they were all different editors. When it came to the fourth one, I really felt that I had some really good friends at the time that were excellent at picking up things. And then when it came to the fifth one, I actually feel quite comfortable. I don't need to share this. And so I'm not recommending that to everybody. It's just what feels right for you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And the
I
amount of respect.
refused. I refused to turn my work over to somebody who was going to change the integrity of the story itself, because that's what I'm the one who wrote it, and that was very important to me. I just
Mhm,
wanted to make sure that it sounded readable. That's all I cared about, is that it sounded readable.
mhm.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
think
think
for me, the
we share some of the same passion. I love that.
yeah, the fifth
I
one.
interrupted you. I'm so sorry. I interrupted
That's
you.
okay. The fifth one was so unique too. I think that was an aspect of why I felt that, I can't really share it. There wasn't anybody I knew at the time that would understand it, let alone an editor that is just about the words and the layout and the grammatical, it's
Right, right. There was more
yeah.
to it. Well, we're gonna, if it's okay with you, I would like to share with everybody where they can actually find your books. So we're going to take a look at that real quick. So this is Authors Collective here, Sea Dream Press. If you're interested in where this is, I will be leaving the link for all of this, seadreampress.com. And I will leave a link of all of this in the description of this video. But Leanda, these are your books. These are, and isn't it a wonderful feeling when you have finished a project and you actually see that book in print? Isn't that just such a beautiful feeling?
It is, because each cover that you work with a cover designer too, it just becomes it's the icing on the cake in a way, and
It
then to
just
hold your
is.
book. But I have to correct you. I apologize. Seedreampress.com.au.
.au. You are correct. I'm so sorry. Yeah,
That's okay.
seedreampress.com.au, and that is important. But we'll make sure that we put the link in the description here. So, and if you go here, you can click on these individual books. So, for example, if I clicked on Right to Heal, we could find out a little bit more about that book. Part memoir. Right to Heal is about Leanda's physical and spiritual journey in search of finding her voice, and there's more description there. But there are also other links. So the book is on Amazon or Kindle, Barnes and Noble, all these great places that you could go if you wanted to get a copy of this book. So that is one of the books there. Let's see if we can go back and take a look. The Light of Truth, what was that about? Can we take a look at that one?
Yes, certainly. In light of the truth, if you look at the cover, you'll see in the cover is my dad holding me as a baby in the eye.
In the Eye. Who did your
Yeah.
covers?
So this cover and all of my covers since, actually, the very first cover was done by a German artist, but this one, I put it in 99 designs, and I had used it as a competition. And
Oh
this lovely,
no.
beautiful woman called Guisi de Anna, in Italy, she designed the winning cover that
Oh,
I
you're
love most.
kidding.
So what
I,
I
yes,
had to tell her what I wanted, and then, she just did what I asked for. And she's done that ever since with all my others as well.
that is amazing. That is so artistic. In light of the truth. So, have you ever
Yeah.
felt you don't belong? Have you sought love and it still eludes you?
Yeah.
So, is this more of a memoir?
So the first four are memoirs, and the first
Okay.
four are actually a series of memoirs about love and belonging.
Okay. Wow.
So
Wow.
in this one, yeah, I don't like to say too much because it's such a joy to journey through them individually. But it's in each book, like the first one, I start in the south, I move to the west, I move to the east. This is in Australia. And then where's north? Well, then we get to In Light of the Truth, and I go to meet a man in Paris, and I go to different places in the world, and it's just life experiences. Yeah.
Oh my
And
goodness.
what unfolds.
I love the cover. That is just spectacular. Let's take a look at some of these other ones. So, yes, certainly check this out, seedreampress.com.au. I better not forget that. And you'll find all of these fantastic books here. Intrepid Soul, is this one you want to tell us about?
Yeah, Intrepid Soul was a terribly difficult, well, it was a really hard book to write. You see the snail there. That's been my journey. It's been very slow, and I've had to learn to have a lot of patience, and at the same time, I've been quite naive and gullible on many occasions. And so in this book, I was actually taken for a scam. Um,
Hmm.
and but there was also a, a potential love there that didn't pan out either. And so it was a really hard book to write. but I learned so much in the process from writing it, and all those flowers, that the snail trail leaves is, there are beautiful things that do flower from learning all of these beautiful, well, these hardships sometimes through life.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. So
So
let's see
one
what
of the
else. I'm
Yeah, I was just
sorry.
going to add one thing there. It's like through my writing journey in never giving up, it's I even sold my house to keep writing.
Ah,
It's been a real thing in me that I just have to keep going no matter what. And then I got to um, publishing, decided to go through a hybrid publisher for the last one because I thought, like you said, marketing, one of the hardest things, right? And
yes, yes.
hybrid publishers, they put themselves out there as marketers. And I thought, well, what have I got to lose? And after the first report came in, and after lots of things weren't to my standards and values, I asked for a rights reversal, and I got that, and I republished it again. So
And it's not always easy. Sometimes you have to fight for those right reversals, correct?
I didn't. I was very fortunate. I just laid it on the table and this. I listed everything I wasn't happy with, and I don't think that they could argue with the fact.
Oh, okay. Well, I have talked to some authors who had a really hard time getting their rights back. So, but if that was not your experience, then I am very happy for you that you were able to get those rights back. Marketing is hard. Marketing is hard. But you said something, you talked about never giving up, not
Mhm.
giving up on writing. I have met, I'm one of the people who gave up the very first time. I never had this desire to be an author or to publish a book or even to write a book, really. I did well in creative writing when I was in school, and I
Mm.
enjoyed it. I didn't not enjoy it, but it was not something that I ever saw myself doing on a regular basis. And then I had that idea that I would maybe write other people's stories. Why my eye? I had told you about that. And I started collecting these stories, but I really didn't know what to do with it. And so I did give up. I just abandoned it. I gave up and I said, "Oh, I'll never be a writer." And I have met people who've been working on their projects for years and
Mm.
years. And one of two things happens. They either think it isn't good enough to put out to the world, and so they abandon it,
Mhm.
or they spend so much time, trying to perfect it. It's never going to be perfect. I tell everybody there is no such thing as a perfect piece. There's always room for improvement. So you can keep perfecting it until you die, and then nobody ever gets to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Or they don't know what to do with it once they have completed it. They don't know how to get it published. They don't know how to make a cover or even who to go to make a cover for them. They just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
How would you encourage people to get their writings out to the world?
It comes back to finding that belief in self. And that's not such an easy thing to do, but one of the things that has helped me tremendously, and due to um, partly due to Dr. Jacqueline Hobbs, is to take time out 20 minutes a day to sit in stillness and silence. And I actually just recently found in one of my journals from 2001
Oh,
that I was talking to myself saying, just sit for 20 minutes a day and in silence and stillness. And then it allows everything to fall into like a balance, so that you can, one of the things, cultivate that and sort of get into the foundations of your own self-belief. And so it's just funny how you can write something, 20 something years ago, and then come back and You hear it again, but you hear it again at a different frequency, I think is the way I want to word it. And then
Yes.
it just sort of sinks in and yeah. So one of the things, self-belief, if you don't have that self-belief, what's blocking you? And there are so many people in the world today that can help shift those blocks. Writing, of course, is one of them, but I don't think that it's wise to just, and this is what was one of my downfalls, I think, too. I believed that writing would solve everything, and it doesn't. There has to be a balance of different things in our life,
Well,
and writing.
absolutely. Otherwise, you have nothing to write about,
Yeah,
right? If
yeah,
you don't have other experiences in life, you really truly don't have anything to say. And I believe that even if you are writing fiction, because so much of fiction is things that we create in our mind and our brain that really come from
yeah.
experiences that we have in life that maybe we alter in our minds, right? And
And
so,
I totally agree with you. So many conversations I've had with fiction writers,
oh,
and they go, "No, it's no part of me," and I go, "I can read all the way
and
through that."
it just has to be. There has to be something that made you want to write that particular thing, even if it's
Mhm.
just a love for a certain hobby. Maybe you're writing about turtles and you know something about turtles. You like turtles, or you wouldn't be putting them into your story. Or maybe you really, I don't like squirrels. My first book was called A Squirrel Peed on Me. That was the title of my book. I reclaimed that title, and I'm now writing a book called A Squirrel Peed on Izzy, which is a story of a young girl who I'm writing it for my grandsons, but it's a story of a young girl who runs out into her yard and a squirrel pees on her. Her brother captures this on video. The video goes viral, and pretty soon the family is caught up in a reality television show. and but it's based on a true event. It's based on something that really happened to me. I went
Yeah,
outside and a squirrel actually peed on me, ruined my entire day. so, so yeah, I don't care for squirrels. So I'm going to
I've,
write about something that I'm either very passionately against or very passionately for. That's just,
I've done
I
that
think all
myself.
writers do.
Yeah, I've done that myself. My parents, I even wrote a grandparent series for children
Hmm.
on my own parents and my grandparents' experiences, and one was a possum peed on my pop's pillow. So yeah, it's that it all comes from somewhere.
Yeah. And oh, yeah, so much of ourselves get brought into the writing. But going back to what you were talking about, we can't just expect that writing is going to be the be all and end all.
Mhm.
Writing in itself is not what heals us. It's writing truth that helps us heal. It's writing from experience. And so we need to step out of our comfort zone sometimes and have those experiences. Sometimes this is my personal belief. Sometimes things that we go through that seem so negative and so upsetting at the time turn out to be bedrock for some beautiful things in the future, opportunities to grow, opportunities to learn, opportunities to get to share our experiences with other people and help them. Because I don't believe that the things that happen to us in our lives are just for us. They're meant to be shared with other people to help them through whatever they're going through at that time.
Absolutely. The number of people who have responded to, I'll choose In Light of the Truth as one example. A young 19-year-old lass, her mum bought her that book for her birthday. And she wrote to me sometime later and thanked me because she was now able to see in her own life to put herself first, loving herself first before loving everybody else. And so it was very heartwarming, not from an egoic perspective, but just that whole sharing, that knowing that what you've been through is actually helping or benefiting somebody else, that they're not alone in what they're going through
Yes, and also when that happens, you realize that your experience wasn't for nothing.
yeah,
That there was a reason for it. And I love that you said that it doesn't come from a place of ego. It comes, for me, it's more like, oh, there was a purpose. There is a purpose in everything that I've experienced. So I really
Mm.
appreciate that. One of the You and I had talked about never giving up. And I think that can be so cliche that we tell people just don't give up, just don't give up. But what does that truly look like when it comes to writing? What does that really look like for you?
For me, I always had that, I think, idealistic view of, if writing and putting these books out there, that it's actually going to help support me, you know, in life financially. And it hasn't. And so that's one of the things I think you have to get over. It's like not having expectations on doing something for any particular reason. Not that I did that for those reasons or for that reason, but yeah, there's something there, but it's not quite coming. So
No,
reframe
no,
it.
I completely understand where you are going because it is so, I love that what you just said because we have been given this idea as a human, the human race has been given this idea that when you write a book, you're going to be rich and you're going to be famous. And
Yeah.
that is not true for the majority of people who write. You're going to write, I'm going to tell the hard truth. You're going to write this book, you're going to put it out there, and for a long time, nobody may even see that book unless you share it with them. Friends and family are wonderful. They're always going to buy your book and support you. But nobody in this world is really going to pay attention. And there's a lot of competition out there. There are so many books available for readers.
Yeah.
So most people don't ever get their book really seen or known. And it would be very easy then to say, why
What's the
bother? Why
Yeah,
do
what's
this again? And I find that to be very tragic because so many people have these beautiful stories still left inside of them, so much to share. Even if it's fiction, fiction, nonfiction, whatever it is, they have these beautiful writings, but they say, I give up. I don't want to do this because it didn't match that dream that I have been fed, this false dream that I have been fed that
Yeah.
I'm suddenly going, like you said, I'm going to be able to support myself with this. Most
Hmm.
people can't support themselves with just their writing.
No. So the key point that you just said there too is like, what is the point?
Is the point.
And that's really so interlinked with never giving up.
Mm,
And it's because if you always go through life, and this is what I do my best every day, is just being in a state of curiosity really helps with not giving up. As in, well, curiously, what story do I have to share today? Is there a story to share today? It comes back to that self-belief, doesn't it? So,
right. Yeah.
but staying curious as opposed to being fixed on, well, things have to go this way for that reason, and that nothing is fixed or linear. Life is very organic. And it's when you stay in that moment of well, that state of curiosity and allowing yourself to be curious at whatever's coming in, then you're not attached to an outcome.
Yes. Yes, I think that we disappoint ourselves when we set expectations and demand that those expectations be met. Because
Absolutely.
most of the time, the way that we envision things turning out is not how they turn out. So if we can let go of expectations, then we can really live in comfort with what is being brought into our lives and what is happening around us. That's how I view it. No.
I do too. But yeah, that I've reached that point of what's the point so many times.
Yeah, why am
But
I
not,
still doing this?
yeah, but it's more so not necessarily to do with writing. It's life itself.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so writing is sometimes a point that I can actually come back to get me started again, to keep me going. So
Mm. Oh,
it's it's interesting.
yes. Yeah. Hit that reset button. But and true. when you see it out on on paper, when it's in black and white and you can look at it, it does one of two things, and this may sound strange. It's like the same side of or different sides of the same coin. It
Yep.
whatever you're going through suddenly loses its power. And at the
Mhm.
same time, you gain power.
Mhm. Yes, very
I don't
true.
know. Yeah,
Beautiful,
it's
isn't
something
it?
about getting it out and you look at that and you say, I put that on paper.
Yeah.
I can do anything. I can master whatever this problem or situation is that I'm going through. And at the same time, I can go back and look at things and say, that's in the past and it just has no power over me today.
And that's one of the beautiful things about writing. It's like, what else is leaves a legacy in the world
Mhm.
after you're gone? As in, a car doesn't do it. Any other material item doesn't do it. And yet a book, a story is there for forever.
It is. And that's the one of my biggest hopes. I don't
And is
believe that I will ever sell millions of dollars worth of books. But my biggest hope is that when I am no longer present on this earth, my grandchildren and my great grandchildren will have something to read that will tell them who I was.
mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing I was going to add to that too is even if it's not in physical form in generations to come, it's still in energetic form. And so what you've written energetically is part of the fabric of our society. That's what it becomes.
It is.
And
That's
so
such a beautiful thing.
we're always rewriting history and creating a new earth in a way, new place to be, how we want to be.
Such a creative process, such a creative journey to get to be a part of that big picture. Well,
Yes.
we're going to share your link again here. And let's see, I want to go over here too, and let's talk about Goodreads for just a moment. So if you do get Leanda's books, then Leanda Michelle right here, you have an opportunity to go to Goodreads and you can leave reviews. Those are so important to us as authors, aren't they? Those reviews. And check these books out. And I'm still in love with the cover of In Light of the Truth. I think that is just spectacular.
I, al-
Knightsbridge. Oh,
I
wonderful.
always say to people I did a whole series of markets last year just to meet people and, talk about my books, which was a really great experience. And I always say, whatever the cover is that you're drawn to, that it's the book for you that you're ready to read, that because my books seem to follow a frequency and like an unraveling of the human spirit.
So, one question about these, if I were to pick up maybe book two in your series, would that do I really need to start with book one, or could I
No,
start with one and then jump over to another?
yeah, no, that was the beauty as well. I wanted to make them standalones as well as in the series. So it's like
Okay.
a lot of people will just pick up Boundless as an example because that's where they're at the moment. They're wanting to understand about things that happened around the COVID time
Hmm.
and, having your voice, being free, Boundless, the voice of freedom.
Let's take a look at that real quick here. It's out of the way. Boundless, the voice of freedom.
Mm.
This is another one of your journey. Oh,
Yes.
we Goodreads is wonderful with those pop-ups.
Oh,
But
yeah,
yes,
they
so
are.
if you go to goodreads.com and you just search for, let's see if we can't go back here, and you just search for Leanda Michelle, then you'll get a list of her books and you can once you've checked out her books, you could go ahead and leave reviews and find out what they're all about. But I still would say seedreampress.com.au is probably a great place to go if you just want to concentrate on her books alone without all of the other mess in the
That's
way.
it.
And so you have Right to Heal. We're just going to go through the list. In Light of the Truth, Intrepid Soul, Boundless, and Knightsbridge. There's
Yes.
plenty to read there. And again, we will leave all of these links in the description of this video for you guys so that you can find her. But Leanda, it has been such a pleasure to have you here today. And I feel
Thank you
like this has
so
been such a beautiful conversation. I love your heart. I love your spirit. I love that you really want to help other writers and that you want to be a part of this writing journey, not just for yourself, but for other people. And I love that and I appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Laura.
Oh.
It's really humbling actually to be a wellspring of knowledge. Not that I know everything either, but to assist people to just to have the courage, you know, to get their voice out there and to be seen, heard, felt, and known. And that comes from book two.
So one question I like to ask all of my authors before I end every show, if you could leave somebody with one piece of advice when it comes to writing, what would that be?
That is, you are unique. And don't ever forget that. So you have a unique voice, you have a unique way of sharing your voice, of operating in the world, of showing up. And so, yeah, show up.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Hmm.
Listen, we have had the pleasure today of speaking with Leanda Michelle, and she has written some remarkable books that I hope you go and check out. Some beautiful books. We'll leave the link to her books in the description of this video. But Leanda, again, thank you so much for being with us today. You've been a delight.
Thank you very much indeed. It's been really, really lovely.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful day. As always, to our audience, I hope you have a wonderful day and God bless you.